Tonight. I have a quick question. How many people were here the first night and now back second time? Excellent. It's good to see. Yeah, so we're considering this the second half of our presentation. I'm very excited about tonight. This is the culmination of many things. We've had many discussions, many meetings, many sit-downs, and a lot of research about this. But the most important part was the input that we gathered from you guys. We started 2-3 years ago with our strategic plan. We conducted a facility study on the building. We held numerous patron-driven surveys, and we gathered their input from the first one. And here's our list here. So what we have, what you guys have given us, and what we've gathered over the last year, you want to see an expanded computer room, parking at Thompson, teen center brought back into the main building, the aesthetic quality of our 1924 space, the original part of the building, join the main library and the house, the historic quality of the house, main building exiting, elevator access, respecting the integrity of the Bales house, respecting our neighbors, better exhibition space. As you can see, it's here. This is what we got. More comfortable chairs. I hear this a lot. Everybody likes more comfortable chairs. Better periodicals. The possibility of building up. The meeting room is too small, needs stage. Community needs and gathering spaces. Do we expand these to maybe have a parking lot under? A good balance between green space and built space. Sustainable and rebate opportunities for solar panels, renewable energies, that kind of thing. Historical elements to influence programs. Infrastructure upgrades, HVACs, lights, plumbing, bathrooms, that kind of thing. A possible atrium behind the Bales house. Garden and green rooftops. Making sure our building flows. As we all know, we're kind of segregated right now. Things are all over the place. Maybe a reading room behind Bales. And have quiet study space around the building somewhere. Right now we have that study porch, which isn't exactly very quiet since there's an elevator with moms going up and down with kids all the time. So to kick off, I'm going to ask Kevin to come up, and he's going to start looking at some drawings.
I'm just going to go over here. Good evening. Wait for this. First, we'll just start. Oh yeah. Actually, no. I'm going to use this. Just to reorient ourselves to existing conditions, and then we'll get into some ideas that are a culmination of the list that Tom went through, which is kind of derivative also of the handwritten list that was going on in the corner last time, which we have up on the easel over there. And we really feel that we've addressed most, if not all, of those concerns one way or another. So again, just to orient, when you see drawings and plans tonight, Thompson Street will be on the bottom, so that'll just orient you to the front door, main entrance in. Okay. Oh, we go to the next one. Just a sense of aerial. Again, Thompson here, East Main Vineyard. Okay. And the house. Just to know again, this is a basement plus 3 stories of space, and that's how the plan lays out. And then just this existing building, and at a lower floor where we are, we're here right now in the middle, and as you know, it pushes into the hill. That's just reference to that, okay? And the main floor, again, just reference, this is our starting point, and you know this, and you've done all this. Next. The roof, and then you have the teen space as a separate leased space. And then a composite drawing that shows the main building, the house, and the rented space, all in the same scale, so we have a reference, an idea of how big things are. We kind of looked at all that, and this has been part of the analysis of understanding, combining all of this, based also with the program that's been thought of, and where things would be, and how big they would be, or what things we need to address. What are the pieces that are in place, so to speak. Okay, and then the last piece of that kind of existing analysis is looking at the whole site, main library site, the house, 114 Thompson, and saying, with bubbles, like what are the opportunities? Are there opportunities to renovate the existing library, opportunities to use the house, opportunities on the site to do different things? And what could those be? So, and pretty much leave the front lawn alone, because that's also part of this whole historic district idea, that it's the context of the volumes of the buildings and the streetscape, and that's also what parameters are for us to think about from the outside in, as well as what we're doing from the inside out in terms of program. Okay, so here we go. So, now I'll enlarge this in a minute. On the left, on the bottom, is again just the lower floor plan of the existing building, the main floor of the existing building, the house in relation to the existing building as it sits on the site. So right now, this is open space. And just for reference, the leased space, just so it's one of the components that we're looking at. As you start to look at a proposed sketch, a lot of things start to happen, and a lot of things that were kind of talked about in the list of ideas. First, we've kind of taken a look at, are there different ways to look at the use of the existing building, number one. Is there a way to connect the existing building with the house? Yes, we'll get to what that is in a minute. And the house also has a second floor and a third floor. So again, this is a map, pretty much, of all the space that we're looking at. In terms of, again, starting with the existing building, what's not here? Right now, what's not in this building is across the street. So you have friends and you have teens, so they need to come in. This meeting room is deemed too small and really not ideal. So what's happened, the big moves that have happened, let's build a new meeting room out, not in the basement, out above ground, for the most part, get to that in a minute. And what could we do with this space that's left behind? Can the teen center move in here? And let's redo this space and bring them in, and then connect to the new meeting room as an addition that then connects to the house. So in a nutshell, that's the big idea.
And what about the store?
Hmm?
The store?
And you would no longer lease the store. Right? So all the elements that are in leased space are now within your campus, basically. It's one building, and you've combined the properties into one campus with set into its landscape.
All right, we'll have a space for the friends, don't worry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Used books?
Yes.
Can we just go forward? I'll just show the, just a larger, so we can look at a larger plan of the proposed. Now, I'll just start at the front door and walk through just big ideas of what we're planning to do. The main entrance would stay where it is, number one. Still come in there. So come in off Thompson. But what we've done is, this is all new space, right? This piece, right where my hand is, right now are offices. Those would come out, and it would be open space to the addition. So you come in the front door, the circ desk is now going to be to your left. Come in, face the new circ desk, and as you look towards the addition, we're going to open all of that up to a large central space leading to the new meeting room. And that can be seating, that can be different areas for to sit with a computer. We've illustrated some areas where the friends can have collections, and how we can reorient the building, use that main space, open it up, make it feel much more expansive. Take the quiet study porch and open that up a bit, open up that wall, and have a sense that as you come in, there can be like a cafe, computer area near the circ desk in the main space of the building that then opens up into the addition. So and we'll get there's a little 3D coming later that'll help explain that in kind of more real time. A gallery can be the space that connects the new meeting room with the house. So you have a space. So basically, it's as if you're building, imagine another building back there, as if there was a building there all the time. And it's a large, like, meeting room type open space. And then we're connecting different pieces. We have a stage area here, potential. So there can be a focal point into the meeting space. The meeting space could be subdivided into separate spaces, so it's not always just one space. So different activities could go on. And And the idea that within that new space, let's take the opportunity to use technology, let's take the opportunity to have a stage, let's have the opportunity to have that really be a multi-purpose event space. You can decide what you want to do with that, and it'll allow all kinds of different activities to happen. Because you get to start fresh with that. You get to make that what it really wants to be from the very beginning. Moving through, really leave the original 1924 building alone. Just leave it alone, it's fine. Going up to children's, there are a number of organizations. Like the children's library office is in the basement, back corner at the moment. Why not bring the children's office into the children's library? The activity room is a little bit cramped. So maybe where the activity room is, we can open that up a little bit, leave space for an office, and then take the back corner under one of those skylights within where the columns are, and make that the activity room, make that a bit bigger. So that's an idea, and then let the rest, we'll figure all the rest out as we go. But as big ideas of how to mark territories of what's happening in the building. I think that's pretty much what's going on with most of that. As you get into the house, we're saying, we're gonna leave the house, the plan, pretty much the way it is. We're not looking to take down stairwells or take walls down, really. We may want to add some toilets in there on the first floor, because it'd be good to have some toilet rooms back there. And can the back room right now be kind of an efficient little kitchen area where there could be some food prep for the events? And can the existing rooms that are there be conference or quiet room space? We do know that we probably don't want to put a lot of weight of books and things in that building, so let's just use it for, you kind of go there, it's a quiet space, or it's a conference room, activities like that can happen. And then at the moment, the idea that we displaced the director, the assistant director, and the purchasing agent to make this a nice open space, so they have to go somewhere. So what about the second floor or third floor above? So administrative space in the upper levels of the house.
That'll carry the weight.
Yes.
And that will carry the weight.
Of that, of the
Of
offices?
that, of the office
Yes,
function.
of the offices.
Those were previously rented.
Are they talking about you and me?
Yeah, they're talking about us.
What is the connectivity from the brand-new area into the house? It's a back entrance? It's
Yes.
a hallway there?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what I'm trying to see there?
Yes, the corner room at the moment here has a window there. And that window would become a door,
Right.
probably a little wider than just a
Okay.
door. Right, and that would be the connection point into this corner of the gallery space that then opens, and you'll see in a minute in the little 3D, there's gonna be a nice visual connection between, even as far back as the new circ desk near the existing porch. And then the opportunity that this new space is open, that you have a sense of the house from within the library.
Where will the staff be?
Staff, in terms of, now, if we go to the, well, basically, staff is pretty much in the same place.
Yeah.
And if we go next to the
Staff room
next
would stay
one.
the same.
Yeah, staff room would stay the same, tech services would be the same. We go to the CERT desk. There's an idea of a living heritage actually having a space, a room within the larger volume, and wouldn't that be?
Remember, the bookkeeping people would be very unhappy
Same.
with their space.
So,
And bookkeeping people have to be happy.
Have you done any kind of study?
Yeah.
to say
Well,
What justifies all the space? I mean,
Yeah.
or is it just space for spaces, just to have?
well, the two main motivators here
Excuse
are.
me, because there's also a big need for parking, particularly, I would say handicap parking.
Okay, so far, the two motivators are get out of the lease space and bring those folks back in.
So that's $3,500 a month you'd be saving, is that right?
Even more, yeah.
How much?
Yeah, well, about 4 a month.
And there's staff costs.
Yeah.
Additional
there's-
staff
yeah.
costs.
That's rent, there's also staffing that we had to have now, somebody, because it's a
Would
separate
probably be
building.
staffing here.
Well, I wouldn't need to have a teen librarian on in the morning, because teens are in school, so if it's in the main building, I don't need
I
to
say
schedule.
save for that.
Yeah, 4,000 plus utilities, so now we're heating a separate building, we're lighting a separate building, that kind of thing. It could add up, we did some guesstimates between 6 and 8 when it's all said and done a month. where we could, well, if we bring them back in, we can recoup. And also, it's, the lease space, it's working great because it's on the main drive and it's right on for the teens. But fiscally, it's been a nightmare. You know, that's money that's going out the door that we're not investing in for the library itself. It's, you know, it's money that just goes. Whereas we save that $6 or $7 grand a month now, can go directly towards operating expenses here, or materials, or a way to reduce the overhead here, and can be invested to keep the library more solvent financially. Does that make sense? Yeah. Naomi?
Is there any kind of possibility of a handicap entrance right into the meeting room? Even though it's not far, it's far enough that
Up
it
the
might
street line.
dissuade some people.
Oh, yeah. We have been talking about an entrance on Vineyard as well.
Okay.
And there is in here too, an entrance on East Main.
Excellent.
Yeah. It won't be the main entrance, but there will be entry points. Yeah.
Where's the top, where does the parking take place?
Parking take
We'll get
place,
to that.
yeah, that's,
Why don't you just pop ahead and do it?
Yeah, we'll go ahead a few.
We'll come back.
Yeah, but that's.
We'll,
next one.
just, we can go ahead and then come back, so. Okay, here are some site diagrams. On the top is pretty much the existing situation, the house, main library, and we've highlighted the 10 stalls existing plus the house next door. The proposal is, there's an addition here, obviously, we've been talking about that, the house, the main library, keep the parking lot that's there, and add 10 stalls adjacent. That's the plan. So that is the way to double the parking on the site.
Building comes down?
The building would come down.
The building's condemned.
Is that at the same elevation as the existing parking?
No.
That would be
No.
a step
A
up.
little higher.
There would be 2 levels.
So does that help? Barbara?
With the open concept that you've developed, what is the square footage of this new large room? And then, number one. Number two, what is the overall square footage for the increase in project, in the space?
The square footage of the new meeting space would be 1,500 square feet inside, and the total square footage of new space is 3,000 square feet.
One story.
Your existing library is 23,600 square feet,
Not including the house.
not including the house and not including the teen center.
So with the added 10 smart parking spaces, you are falling into the correct code in regards to the ratio of increased space and
Address that.
parking?
Sure. Talk about that.
Let me address
Yeah.
that.
That would be, yeah.
We've met with planning staff and have discussed our conceptual plan, and there's still some discussion going on whether or not we meet code, or if a parking variance will be required. We're thinking no variance at the moment.
We're pretty close. You know, it's just way getting down to nuts and bolts to see how
Yeah.
close we are.
Back to the house for a second, that was designed originally as a residence. Now, I don't know how it's gonna stand the amount of people and furniture and whatever else you're putting in there without
I'll answer
a lot
that.
of work being done.
Okay.
Is this on?
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's working. The house as a residence would have a certain loading, I remember it predates a lot of codes. So when it's renovated and when it's restored, and I think we should just some of the things, if you weren't here before, we're keeping the house and restoring the house to its exterior so it fits within the character of what it originally was. It's inside, we want to keep the spaces generally where they are. But obviously, when we start to peel things open, if I need another joist someplace, I'm going to put a joist in. But a house or residence loading is very comparable to office space loading. Just imagine a bureau, a dresser, and a bed. I'm going to have a desk and 2 chairs and another. So it's going to be very comparable. Those are considered small meeting rooms and office spaces. It could never, ever try to be loaded for a library, for books. We don't even think that that's possible, any of us. Just
I guess.
Otherwise, it won't be there.
An engineer has looked at the basement? and-
We have done some structural work already. We have more to do. Part of the reason of showing the project to you tonight is to get from where we left, if we're in the right direction. That's what this is all about. If this is going in the right direction, we want to keep going. So obviously, there would be greater detailing with the village, greater detailing and structural engineering, starting to look at really fine information. If you all sat there tonight and I said, I think this is absolutely horrible, and we want to go home early, then we wouldn't be, you know, we've got
Back to
much
square
more
one.
to do, but the answer is a little bit and much more has to be done.
Is there a budget idea on what this is?
Oh, yeah, I knew that was gonna come out.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get to the budget.
can we
yeah.
do that after we do, I really want to see the 3D too. I mean, I played architect with this, and we've all played, so I think you need to see how the composition of it looks to get a sense.
I'd like to ask about access to the second and third floors for disabled people. You need an elevator. Can you put an elevator into that house?
No. We're addressing that, let me just explain to you how we're addressing that. In a historic structure, often there is relief given if you can prove that those services that are being utilized could also be offered or handled elsewhere in the building. For instance, I hope you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
But if we put him on the second floor, for some reason, would it be at the least bit, as, obviously, he could get there. If you hired a director who was incapable of getting there, then that would mean that there would have to be some handling of that. But if Tom had to meet with someone, his accommodation would be that he would come down to a meeting room on the first floor and be able to meet you and accommodate
So
you.
he's not accessible either. If you just want to go and see him, you can't just go and see him.
If the requirement is that an elevator had to be put
You
in,
have to call ahead and say, come down and meet me in the lobby.
it's the difficulty sometimes of dealing with the old house, and let me just explain what that would mean to us. Yes, we could drive an elevator in there. One of the things is we could never put in the least size required or permitted or necessary by the ADA requirement. That's an 8x8 box. That elevator would be, if we put it in, there'd be no sense in renovating the house at the expenditure of the elevator.
That's
We-
exactly what I'm getting at.
Okay, but we could put in, and we haven't yet looked at what's called a Lunar or some other small elevator that could do it. And the reason we're concerned with that is if this makes sense, we need to go back to dealing with the historian who's been working with us to make sure how much we can actually do to the house. So, yes, I think it's a very fair question. I appreciate your thought. We have said that's what we think could go up there. You okay?
Yeah.
He might not go up there, but it's a matter of, that is the only uses. We want the value of the house. We can't take it down. We want to save it. Its first floor is obviously usable, and we can make that accessible. And we're really talking about the minimal amount of a couple of rooms on the second floor.
I have seen the elevator at the town hall,
Oh, yeah, it's great. So you can-
Oh.
and that is unacceptable in a public library and in a public space. It's
Okay.
unacceptable.
Right, I'm not familiar with that, but,
And you have to make space. This is a public library. You must make it accessible for everyone.
We understand that.
That means people in chairs and walkers
Understand.
and things like that.
Right.
The town people are getting older, not younger.
I know that. It's a long walk in here some nights, you know what I mean? It's a little achy. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask a question. Harriet's question's a very good one. At the back of the house, where it steps up, you know, the outside steps up as you climb Vineyard, you know, on the
Yeah.
property, you have like one level that's here, and then about 6 or 8 feet out, there's a wall outside. There's that stone wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Is there a way you could put an exterior elevator using the basement level
I know
of
what you
the
mean.
house,
Hmm.
going out and up?
I'm gonna say the way you described that, probably, but again, I'm just gonna give myself some latitude. I'm bound to the restoration of the house and how much we can actually do or not do. And we're not 100% sure of that. I'm gonna say I'm almost 90% sure of that.
The reason I'm saying it is the basement's actually stable,
Mhm.
the basement level. And if there was a window at the back of the cement floor where the fireplace is, right, before you go into where the furnace room is.
Yep.
Right, if you went out that back way and put the elevator on a slab between where the house is at this level and then the wall goes up.
Right.
couldn't you do it that way?
We can look into it, but I think I want to just keep continually saying it's an evaluation that needs to be occurred, and we really need to reference ourselves to the restoration of the house and the intent of the ADA. Those are two pieces that need to join themselves together. There are many county, state, and federal structures that, when restored, do not provide accessibility because it would ruin the integrity of the original restoration, but the functions on the second floor have been accommodated on the first floor. For instance, it would be impossible for us to say that we want to put the only meeting room on the second floor of that house. That would be, we couldn't even consider it, but that we were considering a meeting room or a room that could be used. I'm going to say that we have more, I feel somewhat confident with that, even though I understand your concerns. What I am pleased with, which you may not believe that I am, is that we're getting into that much detail of the thought. That's what we were hoping for, because if generally we're on the right track, then we've got problems to solve. Other than, I really wish you'd go home early tonight so we could get home too. So, yes.
I was wondering if we could get to the 3D.
I was hoping you'd ask.
That's what I came here.
You wanted to see a 3D?
Yeah.
All right. There's no candy, nut, popcorn, but there's a 3D.
Finger thing, if you just find there it is, just hit play. Okay, so again, starting on Thompson, and this is a schematic. I'll just let you watch, but it takes you through, I think you can identify 1924, the existing entry. That's the new meeting room in the back. And we're just gonna kind of travel through that. You come in the main entrance like you would, and the next column bay over now becomes a central hall towards, central space towards the addition. You can see how that works and how it's lining itself up, where the new circ desk is, an idea of living heritage here. Now, this is not gonna be a glass roof, it's just so you can see through. That would be a connector, house in the front to the upper left, new meeting space here in the lower left at the moment, and how that would handle the different elements on the site, creating basically like a campus of buildings with the new structure pretty much in the background looking from East Main.
We just stopped it for a moment because obviously the house is intact. What you were describing before, I know where you're thinking, but conceptually what we're seeing here, I could go down that list and I can remember some people in the meeting the last time we were here saying, I'd like this, I'd like that. I think we hit a lot of these things. But in essence, the concept of this is that, someone mentioned the word campus before. I think it's more like its own little neighborhood. We're trying to develop that the meeting room feels like it was a part and just is there relative to the Bales house. It isn't effectively touching or hurting the Bales house. It's just trying to softly get up to it. We've put some architectural thought into it. Could this end wall open up at some point to a small patio? Could the meeting room get out of itself? It's not really, when we want to get out of here, we're going up the basement, get out of the basement. Could that open up and get out onto a patio space like an old barn door or something like that? Could it be the barn behind the house that may have been there, was never, who knows? So you're getting some conceptualization of some architecture, but that's all we've got so far. Again, if that's starting to make sense, we can continue to embellish. Do you want to continue to rotate so we can continue to get it around a little bit? Sorry, I just want to take you off your path. Meeting room's tall. Okay.
One story.
Biggest thinking, yeah. A sense of carving out of book? Okay.
You now get to see it twice.
We'll just let it go.
That's good. You're good. Don't worry. So we haven't populated the existing building with furniture or shelving yet. All of that would be a byproduct of continuation of the design. The project is not at this point just the construction of new. It's also the evaluation of existing, I'm coming, the evaluation of existing, and then trying to push those things and move them where they are internally and redevelop how the whole building is operating. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's something very important that you have to remember in a library, that all the patrons who come in and out must pass the circulation desk.
Yes.
You do take that into consideration.
It's because a moment ago when someone said, could you come into the meeting room on its own? I didn't answer that. I was the one who didn't open his mouth. Because in essence, we would think that almost all the entry to this building would happen at the main entrance. However, let me mention this. We have designed a number of libraries and spaces where the opportunity is, can the meeting room function when the rest of the library is closed? And so we're trying to work that thought out too. This can't function that way. This is
Right.
pretty close, because in essence, if we could get into that meeting room as an evening, tonight, at 9:15, what time do you close? 9:01, then in essence, we could use that space almost without having to traverse the entire library. So I don't think that we could say we have 100% got that worked out, but it's not something we couldn't handle. Or at least if you have staff on in the evening, all they're doing is preventing people who are in that space from traversing the rest of the library. But there is a way to get in it. There is a way to get there, just as a way to get to the Bales house
Right.
at presently.
Is that a little extension to the right of the house? Is that part of the original house?
This right here?
Yeah.
Oh, Schmigel.
This is part of the original library, this exists now.
No, it's a little,
House.
the little thing,
Just let it go.
Right
Yeah.
side?
Yes.
it's the piece with the shed on
Right
it.
here?
Yeah, then, no, on the other side, it exists, that exists.
You're looking at it on the very right.
Kevin mentioned before that the front lawn remains intact. We obviously have some, I need to put, building the addition, because the cost of all of that would probably wind up in the cantilevered parking lot. And then, so we would start to look at that, whether or not it was columns, which then you start to decide, and I'm horrible at that, I don't know about you, but when you've got columns in a parking lot, I'll do anything I can to not have I can't get out. You know, I'm kind of large, so I might just stay in the car. So I think what we're trying to represent is that's the maximum amount of parking we think that we can do. The village seems to be generally intact with it, and it seems to be falling within the confines of approvals and budgets, I think. We're always looking, though.
And we don't have to do much in the way of a retaining wall. If we drop that site down, the retaining wall would be massive in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Massive.
We just don't need it. I don't think we need it. And then you start to tear it, and then I'm gonna start to lose some of the parking.
Right.
And it feels, in this way, it's the driveway. There's a driveway to a parking lot and a driveway to a parking lot. But anyway.
A 3D view of the parking?
No, I'm sorry.
Because that would probably help.
It would. We'll add that next time. We'll add that next time.
I mean, parking is something that, you know, is a life of its own. The more the parking, the more you need. you
Yeah.
know.
Build it and they will come.
There's
Yep.
no end to how much parking you're gonna need.
Paving of dreams.
Driverless cars.
That's kind of what we have as a presentation. So I guess for our purposes, and I think for yours, is to get a good feel of,
what
are
you
we
guys
okay
think.
to keep moving? Kind of.
Just this thing on the handicap thing.
Yeah.
Those chairs that, it wouldn't be for everybody, especially people in chairs, but those chairs that go up,
Stair?
stairs.
Yes.
That could possibly
Hmm.
be one solution.
All right.
It's just a thought.
I appreciate it.
It will not accommodate a chair, but it would.
The,
Could you ring a bell and he comes down?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have the.
It's the least expensive, if one of you provides a bill, I think you can save a lot of money. No offense. I just want to mention that the concept of getting accessibility is huge. Part of my career was serving on the New York State Building Code Board of Review, in which cases were brought to me whether or not they met code or not. So I'm not coming at you with this without some intent and understanding of the ADA and code. One of the last things, just so I can, and I'm sorry, one of the last things we ever tried to approve was what's called the inclinator. You've seen it on TV? Because what it does in your residence is one thing. What it does which was now a commercial building, is impedes the area of exit. And so the relief given is typically to a much more residential snug elevator. If you are familiar with the residential elevator from a commercial elevator, I fit. Don't bring my briefcase or a winter coat. But that's the solution that's generally acceptable. We have not introduced that yet. I'm sure we can start to discuss that, but I need to have that dialogue with our historian to make sure that we're not damaging or effectively changing the utilization of the building for that. Do you want to just get a feel from everybody, or?
Yeah, so we would love feedback. What do you guys think so far? What are your initial feelings on this, overall sense? You think we've kind of accomplished the list, that kind of stuff? Sure.
Can you do anything without an idea of budget? I mean, can you?
I can, if you want, I can go
figure out
over,
how it
yeah.
proceeds?
So, I've been leery to adjust the budget only because there's so many variables that are going into play that we just don't know yet. You know, we are in the initial stages, so we don't know exactly when it comes down to permits what we're gonna have. But roughly, we're looking 6 to 9 million. What that breaks down with, I can give you some quick synopsis of what that means, because I can sit here and say $8 million, and that means nothing to what your taxes would be or what it is.
6 to 8 or 68?
6 to 8. Yeah, no, not 6 to 8. Yeah. We could have an elevator.
I'm liking
for every
this
room at
job
6
much
to 8.
better now. That part of, and if I could, part of the reason that it's not finite is because we have not,
Yeah, you couldn't figure it out.
and
Yeah,
we
we
said
just
to
haven't
Tom,
addressed it as a
I'm not
committee.
going to estimate this till you think it's going to happen.
Right, yeah.
And
we don't know
how
what's
would-
gonna happen
would it be
until we
ready?
get feedback from
Yeah.
the public.
But if
Right.
you're looking for like a sense of, you know, what you've done here, what you've
Yes.
presented to us, I'm surprised that it meets all, you know, almost all of the things that you've outlined here, and still keeps the integrity of view from East Main Street, you know, basically the same. I think you guys should be commended for.
Super job.
what you've
Yeah.
done.
You guys actually thank the library board and especially the building committee. I see these guys more than I see my wife. I'm calling Lee, literally, I'm calling Lee 10 times a day
Let's
for
not
random
get into
things. They really burned the midnight oil, and we were very, very sensitive. We don't want to mess with East Main Street. We don't want to mess with the Bales House. We don't want to mess with the streetscape. You know, we want to be a good neighbor. Yeah, so all these things, we really hammered home how we went over design after design, conversation after conversation.
Would this be the appropriate time to ask 2 little questions?
Sure.
Okay. Being one of the active members of the Library Friends and hearing that the used bookstore would be moved into the library, I have some concerns because we get a lot of traffic for people walking
Right.
around Jefferson, and we create revenue that we then turn back into library programs. The public is not going to come into the library looking for used books. It's just the walking street public. That's one thing, and we create a lot of revenue. The second thing is, I've been in a few new libraries, and they're gorgeous, but they're so cold.
Yeah.
They look like the Library of Congress, you know, when you walk
Yeah.
in. They've got row after row, not a comfortable chair anywhere or a table.
Yeah.
And I hope that our comfort level in our library will be taken into account.
Yeah. We're not at that spot yet, but that's definitely one of the things that we want to address. We don't want, there's been several libraries who just finished renovations, and you're right, they look very nice. They're kind of sterile, and they don't say community. When we're done with this, and this has been on our agenda since the very first, we want this library to say Port Jefferson. We want it to reflect our culture and our values and the people here. So we don't want that sterilization, you know, we want it to say Port Jefferson.
like that.
And regarding the used books, that's going to be taken into account somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
How the-
yeah.
Figured
How
out.
the people going in and out of Port
Right.
Jefferson in the summertime would know we have that.
Right.
Good signage. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, huh?
What's gonna happen to the little room across the hall?
The conference room?
Yeah.
Right now it's tended to be like a 3D tech area kind of thing. But that's what it's been marked for right now.
Okay, that's where like the computer rooms? The
3D
computer area?
printing,
'Cause I-
new technologies, that kind of thing, where we're
No, I'm
looking.
talking about the existing computer room that you have.
Oh, existing computer room, yeah. That one
How's
would
that
be
going?
opened up the computer rooms, a couple of spots we had on there. One where the study porch is now would kind of turn into a computer cafe, so there'd be some laptops, a coffee machine, maybe a 3D printer sitting there, the copiers. And then we'll have smaller spots around the building, kind of diversify and diffuse it throughout the building. So a little bit on the
Yeah.
mezzanine, there'll be a couple computers
Absolutely.
down in the stacks. We want to open up the stacks a little bit. One of the things that our strategic plan and building facilities came up with was that the lowest
You know,
actually
it's
is too
co- it's
passive.
gonna be
It's not
a little
an
more
active
cost
area, so
analysis
one of the ways
work,
we
and
can
then
make it
we'll start
active
going
is
to
to put
planning.
some tables and laptops in there. And we also want to improve our quiet study area. As anybody who's ever studied in the quiet study, it's not exactly quiet. The elevator going up and down, I'm not exactly quiet. My voice might carry a little bit, So if we can find the spot where people can actually do quiet study, because we are Seawolves country, and we get a lot of undergrad and graduate students here who would love a quiet spot to study, and we would love to provide, that for them. But-
Just also be aware that the placement of the computers so that the sun isn't glaring in, the
Yes.
light isn't glaring in.
There's a big step next. I mean, what do we do next? If we feel that you're comfortable with what we've done, our next role, I think, is to develop the floor plan into a greater detail. Describe, that's why it sounds vague. He doesn't have any drawings, and he doesn't move his hands anywhere near as much as Kevin and I. So the next step is for us to develop it into much more comprehensive plans, so when you say, where is that, we can really say it's here, and that's how many
Right.
seats. So that's our next step, and at the same time we do that, we develop the construction cost estimate adjacent to it for the extent of the entire work. So there's a much more robust effort from here that needs to take place. So,
I like the plans. I'm concerned about the pronunciation of Bayless. B-A-Y-L-E-S. We're all saying Bayless. It is the Bayless House. There are 3 beautiful homes on the east side of the harbor, Bayless
That's
right.
Hill.
That's right.
So I don't know where you're coming up with Bales, though I've heard it pronounced that.
maybe that's where I got it. My apologies.
Bayless.
Just describe for me the need for the new space.
Sure. Well, this started a couple of years ago. We had a consulting firm come in and kind of look at our facilities, look at where we are in terms of services, and yes, this is after 114 was purchased on Thompson Street. And they came back and they looked at trends in libraries, and we're not meeting them. So we really are a library that's built to service 1980s type services. When they listed and we reached out to our colleagues and we looked over the study, a lot of this list came from that as well as from the public. Things that we feel libraries are going in this direction, and the services that we are offering now as an institution, physically, we're not there. Facilities-wise, we're not there. So after we did the facility study and the strategic plan, that's when we started doing patron surveys. And we asked, I think for almost a year, we did patron surveys and asked what people wanted, and that's where we got that list as well. Once we had that list and we realized we were able to get the house next door, we saw an opportunity to get there. That's basically the impetus that started this.
Would it be added staffing?
We haven't crunched the numbers yet. I can't see too much because everything we brought back in, really our Achilles heel staffing wise is the fact that all departments run outside of the main building. That staff wise adds our numbers. So, but we haven't crunched it. I can't give out a number yet until I know for sure.
Where, on the first floor now, you have the films and the CDs and so forth. Where would all that media go?
We're not sure yet. When we first started this process, Kevin came in and measured everything under the sun. And from there, he was able to know how much we have shelf-wise nonfiction, how much we have DVDs, how much we have large print, that kind of thing. From these designs, we know that we have enough shelving to cover everything already. Where exactly, I'm not sure yet. That'll get into the details more.
Are you still planning conference rooms? You were talking about getting rid of this
Yes,
one here,
yeah.
but would you have others?
Well, we'll have the large meeting room, which can be divided into 3, as well as other spaces which can be used either as a browsable section or kind of loose read the newspaper section, unless we have something that needs to be planned, and then we could have something, say, the first floor of the house next door.
Bayless, right.
Yeah, the Bayless house. We can, during the day, if nothing's going on, it's a browsable, you can still read paper. We might have a sewing group there Tuesday nights, that kind of thing. So this actually opens us up to have more opportunities to have bookable rooms that also can be used when it's not being used as a room. So right now, the conference room is dead to anything but meetings. So it's a dead space when it's not being booked, whereas we kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where we could have rooms that don't need, if they're not booked, they're still usable by the public.
I thought you were gonna talk about, you talked about how much the price of this was.
Yep.
You were gonna talk a little bit about what that meant
Yeah.
to us.
I could sit here and say $8 million, of course that makes no sense because that's overall. We did some number crunching. I want to, put a caveat on it because again, this is rough numbers and this is also dealing with a lot of variables that can change overnight. interest rates on municipal bonds change, we know, depending on what's going on politically, that kind of thing. If it's a 20-year or a 30-year bond, changes the yearly payments. If we go in with another institution and we make several payments a year, we reduce the overhead, that kind of thing. This also doesn't take into account some of our revenues. We've been working very hard on grants. Example, we got a $70,000 grant where we're in the final stages to replace our HVAC units. If we can then lower our overhead, that's less than I have to. But roughly, if I'm gonna get on an $8 million, you're looking at an increase, this is on the average again, so this is what the average house in Port Jeff would pay, would be approximately $73 more a year. A year, on an $8 million, yeah. If we were gonna do a $7 million, it's approximately 64. Again, this varies because it depends on how much property you have, so some people pay a little more in library taxes because they have 15 pools and a helicopter pad and that kind of thing. Some people have a nice little cape and, and they pay a lot less. It's based on property taxes, as well as the assessed valuation of the school district itself, which changes every year as well. But right now, if I had a bond for $8 million, the numbers that we have, it'd cost you about that.
How many conferences have you had down here throughout the year?
About this.
About this or in general?
About this room, here.
This room's used every day.
Every day?
Yeah, every day, several times a day.
How far out are we scheduled for facilities to use this room?
Yeah, they're already funding for this room for next summer. Yeah, it's, I have some of my programmers in the back and they'll go at each other. Yeah, they're dangerous librarians.
That should speak to your point, to your question about why is this necessary. The fact of the matter is we're trying to provide the library services, but the facilities that we have just don't match the demand.
We had to bump 3 programs to have this tonight, and I have to stay low because one of the programs we bumped is we also bumped last month to have the first public meeting. So I need to stay away from that librarian and that program because they don't like me right now.
I'm just thinking, if we got rid of that big new room, I mean, you could do the parking lot all the way around the whole building. And have an exit, do some more.
You can't. Tough.
Yeah, one, the house is historic, so, we can't.
There is no physical way to do
We
it.
can't, one other important thing is, we have 2 front yards on Vineyard and East Main, and not allowed to have parking in front yards in Village of Port Jefferson, so it's really tough to do that.
Well, it would be in the backyard.
No, it's a side yard, front yard, it's actually a front yard.
The way it's classified, where it's
You
owned.
could take
Yeah.
a bicycle.
Barbara.
In
She
a
said to-
perfect
you can take
world,
your
what
bicycle.
timeline are we talking from the beginning?
In a perfect
shovel-
world.
Shovel in the ground?
I'm gonna be hopelessly optimistic. If we leave here tonight and you say, yes, you wanna go for this?
Probably.
Yeah, the next steps would be to now fine grain our design, start a real long open dialogue with the planning board, and start talking to bonding agents. And those can take 6 to 8 months, those things alone, Mike.
Just one thing, I had asked last time, with the young people that are across the street at the leased space,
Mhm.
are they involved in any of the planning? Have they given you ideas?
Gotcha.
Because you would have a ton of ideas coming from.
Right, yeah, and we actually brought Erin, who's the head of teen, she's not here now, we brought her in on some of the meetings. We had surveys, when we did the surveys, we brought in, one of the groups that we surveyed was teens, so they gave us our inputs, and we've talked to them, not officially, but we asked what they wanted out, and the most important thing that we actually got from them, they want a way to get to their space without having to go through adults and that kind of thing. So with this plan, with the teen being down here, we have this staircase right inside the main entrance that could become the teen entrance. And they seemed very happy about that. So they'd have almost their own staircase to go down, they could decorate it any way they wanted, and then come straight from there into here. It's a little bit off, because now they're right on the sidewalk and they can come and go as they please, now let's go downstairs. But they didn't seem adverse to the plan at all, so far.
The grant for the HVAC, now, would you use that before you did all this change?
Yes. This is earmarked for 2 HVAC units that are on its last legs that can go at any time. So, but we.
So you'd be doing it over again then?
No, we just pick up, move the equipment, redo everything, put it right back down.
Maybe work right around it.
Yeah, we replaced 2 last year, and the next 2, we'll have all new HVAC units, high efficiency units that we've got nice rebates from PSEG on, and will save us
rooftop
bills
units.
every month.
We'll save
So when we come and do, if we come, They come with the crane, they pick it up, they move it off, they do that area, that's what they did when they replaced it, believe it or
You're
not.
not doing any duct work, they're just rooftop
Right.
units, that's
We're just
it.
replacing units, right, pulling one old one off, putting a brand new high-efficiency train unit right there. When they come to do ductwork, they'll just pull it off, do the ductwork, put it back down.
How about solar? You mentioned it when you started, but then you didn't say anything after.
Yeah, we've been actively looking into solar now for probably close to a year. We've gone after a couple of grants for it. It's something that we're looking for ways to keep our footprint as small as possible. If that includes solar, awesome. If it includes some new technology that comes up 3 months from now, we'll go for that. We've been researching heavily because the solar technology seems to be changing so rapidly. We want to make sure that whatever we put in place is good for 20 years, that kind of thing. So we're being a little cautious, but we're actively looking for grants. There was a library company that put out a grant last year. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but we're waiting for them to do it again, and we've stayed in contact with local solar companies.
What about geothermal?
We've talked with geothermal as well. I've had a little bit of reservations from people about it, but we haven't gone crazy with it yet.
One of the things that might be able to save a little drainage is, we have a demonstration project at Port Jefferson High School right now, but part of the roof is green. There's stuff growing on it, and it's a demonstration project with both the village and the school district.
Nice.
Something you guys
That's,
should take a look at.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really reduces
Yeah.
the amount of stormwater that ultimately winds up in the Long Island
Yeah.
Sound or,
Right.
in the ground. So it's something that,
Good
and
guidance,
I
yes.
saw you mention it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
Good job, good job.
That's right.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Turkey time.
Okay.